Here now to react is James Carafano. He is Heritage Foundation Vice President of Foreign and Defense Policy Studies. James, this is classic Trump, by the way. You heard the phrase maximum pressure. Maybe rethink North Korea. The way you deal with our enemies is you squeeze them until they hurt, and they are hurting bad now in Iran right now. There are protests, violent protests all over the country. But just when they're squealing with pain, that's when you throw them an olive branch and say, OK, let's talk.
Right. We should remember how we got here. This is not just Trump fulfilling a campaign promise. I mean, the president came in and he was willing to work with the European countries and the other partners to make the Iran deal work. And they failed to come to the table and do that. And then this administration just didn't say, OK, we're going to do sanctions. They went around the world with briefing teams, talking to friends and allies and strategic partners and saying, look, this is what we're planning on doing it. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to phase it in. So you have a period to adjust to this. So the policy on Iran has been very deliberate, very disciplined.
Absolutely.
And boy, it's already been very, very effective.
Well, let's talk about that, James, because already what you have are protests that are spreading throughout the country. It's at all levels in all parts of the country, much more widespread than before. I'm just wondering how much further this discontent will go as the sanctions grow deeper.
Well, it's the right strategy, because the way you deal with authoritarian regimes is you pressure them from within and without. That way, they have to look both ways simultaneously. So we're really exploiting the internal discontent and putting in that external pressure. And as you said, the president always does. He did it with China, Russia, North Korea, everybody. He says, look, if you guys stop impinging on my interests and stop being bad actors and you want to do something that's mutually beneficial for both, great, we can do that. And he's made that offer to Iran.
We'll talk about discontent. There's a lot of it in Venezuela. The socialist regime there had what appeared to be an attack directly on the president. That's Maduro with his sash on and his wife next to him. There was some kind of explosion thought to be from a drone or something like that. You can see the bodyguards going up. But in fact, immediately Maduro, we kind of knew he'd do this, as we'll see his guards scatter in the street as a result of the bomb. They're now blaming the United States. They're blaming the opposition, the peaceful opposition inside of Venezuela. John Bolton spoke to this earlier today. Let's listen to what he had to say.
I can say unequivocally there was no U.S. government involvement in this at all. It could be a lot of things, from a pretext set up by the Maduro regime itself to something else.
These regimes very often do have these attacks. They're meant to look like they're the opposition, but it just gives the dictatorship a chance to hit the opposition.
Well, look, one thing we know about this president, he's not interested in regime change, and he's not interested in nation building. He's not out to overthrow countries. He just wants them to stop messing with our business, and I think that's perfectly consistent here. The United States doesn't want to get bogged down in Venezuela. On the other hand, we're concerned about the people of Venezuela, and if this government doesn't start to act responsibly, it's going to find itself in a really bad place.
Do you think he planned this attack himself, or members of his administration did?
I'm like you. All I see is the reporting that's out there. The reporting that's out there is very inconclusive. I still think there's a whole range of possibilities here. But the regime's response, seems typically, programmed to exploit it for an anti-American line. I mean, it just shows these guys don't get it yet. I mean, much like the Iranians, they have dug themselves into a very deep hole. And when you dig into a deep hole, normally the answer is, dude, stop digging.
Right. Well, I'm going to say an extra prayer for the opposition in Venezuela. They're going to go through a tough time in the next couple of days. James, great to see you. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, very convenient.